Hi, I'm Alex Paulton. I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Talking Timepieces. Today we're going to look at the Vostok Komandirskie GMT. Now, I currently have the Vostok Amphibia wristwatch check. I really like this watch. It's an excellent piece, and I'm going to talk about this at another video. But I was so impressed by the Amphibia at the price point, I went ahead and I ordered the Komandirskie GMT to see what it was like. Now, the Komandirskie is a predecessor, actually, to the Amphibia. The Komandirskie was Vostok's field watch, and then they made the Amphibia in the mid-'60s, about '67. To address scuba. You know, they needed a waterproof watch, and the Amphibia was actually their design, and it's an excellent design. I would call it the AK-47 of watches because it is not the most watertight watch in the world, but as it goes deeper, its design allows it to become literally more waterproof, so it's actually more waterproof the deeper it goes. It's an excellent design for the price point. So it's a perfect example of a military watch, functional, rugged, useful, and inexpensive. Now, the only negatives, which is common gripe, is the bezel sucks. It's useless for anything. Pretty much, I would hate to have been a scuba man in the Spetsnaz during the 60s and 70s, and I had to rely on this bezel to stay alive. They probably just thought about the time and how much time they had, and the hands are legible enough to see, and it's a very legible watch, so you could probably get away without the bezel, but frankly, I wouldn't want to trust it to anything. Now, having said that, here is the Komandirskie GMT. It's a more robust version of the Komandirskie. It has a steel case and also the GMT function. Now, let's open this up. So there we go. There's the watch. And it comes with miscellaneous paperwork. Let's look at the paperwork. This little plastic keeper. And we've got Komandirskie in Russian. And various instructions in Russian, how you deal with the crown and all. And then here is a English translation of the last piece. So basically it talks about setting the time and setting the date if it exists. And essentially it's just, standard instructions. So now let's look at the watch itself. Let's peel off the plastic. Again, this is a very nice, legible watch. It's got small seconds. So you should see, let's wind it up a little bit so you can see the seconds rolling. Well, something tells me that there's a little bit of a problem with this watch because it's pressed all the way up against the body, the crown, and it seems to still be engaged occasionally with the hands. The Komandirskie and the Vostok, all the Vostoks, I shouldn't say all, but the Amphibia and the Komandirskie are known for the floppy crown. Something tells me in this model, the crown doesn't completely disengage when when it's at the lowest position. So here we go, we're wind it up a little bit. And there you go, you see the small seconds running. And I'm screwing it back in. So small seconds, and then there's the red GMT hand. And just like the Amphibia, it's got a really, really loose, I shouldn't say loose, there is some friction and it will stay pretty much wherever you turn it, but I wouldn't trust it against any external knocks or bumps. It would totally turn this off. Now, the crown, let's pull it out, set the time. If you notice, the GMT hand does track. And essentially, it's slaved to the hour hand. So this isn't a true GMT, like a GMT Master or an Explorer. You can't set the hour hand separately from the GMT hand, but it is a GMT in the sense that it is a true 24-hour tracking hand. All you have to do is set the outer bezel to the proper time offset, and it would tell you what time it is. So, for example, say in New York, at noon it would be 6. So, you know, you could then follow a second time zone by just turning the outer bezel. Again, I wouldn't trust it all the time, so you might want to like look at the top of the bezel to make sure that you got the proper number lined up if you set it originally, and then before you look, make sure that it's recentered. Now, the famous floppy crown, it's a safety feature. It's designed to disengage the crown mechanism from the winding and the setting mechanisms in case while you have the crown out, there is a shock on the end of it. It will not impact the mechanism. However, it looks like this watch is having some trouble with the disengagement because as I push it in and start screwing it, the hands are still moving. So unfortunately, it looks like this one's going to have to go back because its famous disconnecting mechanism is actually not disconnecting in this case, or partially engaging or something along those lines. But all around, it is a very charming looking piece. It has a very robust design. Let's open up the notoriously terrible band. Everyone says you should basically just throw this band away when you get the watch. I can understand that. It's not the best band. You could probably get away with using the band. There's nothing terribly wrong with the band, but I would throw it on a NATO just like I did with the Amphibia. And I think this would look really, really good on a NATO if the setting mechanism could properly work. It's a very sharp design with the small seconds. I like the way it just presents itself very well. It's a very nice presentation of the time. It's a very highly legible watch. And the small seconds are a good way to keep the thickness of the movement down so you're not stacking an additional hand on top. Now, again, the bezel, there is a laughable amount of lume. I wouldn't even bother worrying about the lume on this. But it is a highly legible field watch with a GMT function. And let's see, here we go. It's a 42 millimeter case. All right, and the case thickness is about 15 millimeters. Lug to lug, it's 49 millimeters. So it's a nice, robust watch. It's got a really good presence. It's very highly legible, and it does have a GMT function. Like I said, it's got the floppy crown, and this one obviously is not engaging, which is the primary complaint about the Vostok watches, is the QC. I was very lucky with this Amphibia. I have never touched it, and it's tracking very closely to accurate time. Right now, it's 12:32 by my computer, and this is showing about 12:33. So, and I haven't changed this watch in a couple of weeks, so it's been gaining slightly, but for a watch like this Amphibia, that's keeping phenomenal time if you think about it. So this was actually a very good example of what a Vostok watch can be, and frankly is the one I would recommend you get. I'm going to just go ahead and send this back and get another one because I do want this watch, but this one's obviously got a minor defect. I could probably take it to a watchmaker and have them take care of it, but this watch only costs, with shipping, about $80, and I don't want to pay a watchmaker $50 to have them fiddle with it. I think I'll just send it back to the dealer. But the people I'm dealing with, I've bought from them before. They're good people, so I'm not going to give anybody a hard time about the watch itself. But that is something you have to keep an eye on with the Vostoks, and that's the QC from model to model. I've seen videos where people talk about regulating these because they're not very well regulated. Like I said, the Amphibia I have no complaints about, even in the regulation side. I'm just a little disappointed that this Komandirskie isn't working properly. See, and then, yeah, the hand's moving while I'm screwing in the crown. There's no way that I can maneuver it anymore to disengage, because once it starts screwing in, it should be past the level of travel to be engaging with the hands. But It is a very nice, striking watch. I think this would look fantastic on like a black NATO with a red stripe. And the Komandirskie is a really good-looking piece. And this model has the plate and retention ring that the Amphibia has. It has the same waterproof functionality, so this would actually also be a really good watch to take into the water. You wouldn't have to worry about it too much. You've got the acrylic crystal, and you've got the pressure arrangement so that the more water pressure on the watch, the more watertight it becomes. So it's very similar to the Amphibia in that sense. So that's the Komandirskie GMT. It's a okay GMT. It's a good-looking watch. I just wish it had a little bit better QC. So that's Alex Pault for Talking Timepieces. Thanks for taking the time to be with me, and have a great day.